It's not just like blame one guy on the team. It's a systemic issue with Kirk's entire philosophy of how to play Iowa football. Welcome back to the ANF Podcast, where we cover a team that can't get 3 first downs.
We're going to do a brief recap of the catastrophe that we witnessed Saturday night, and then move into a Michigan State preview, then wrap it up with some picks. We're going to do our best to stay positive. There's been a lot of piling on about this team. Still a lot of season to be played out. It's difficult to have a positive view because it essentially you cheered for nothing for 4 quarters. But
yeah, I think you don't have. There was positive takeaways from the game, but there's also honesty that needs to be said about like the performance as a whole. I don't think anyone can watch that offense performance and have like nearly anything of positive to say. Actually, there wasn't anything positive to say. But we're going to start with defense first, and I think the main takeaway is interior defensive line play. We anticipated to be great this year. It held up incredibly well in that game until probably the fourth quarter where their snap count got too high.
Yeah. I think the thing we want to bring up originally here, and we talked about this during the preview of the game, and we knew this was likely going to be a loss. We had a lot of fears about how our offense was going to perform. Mm-hmm. Our way into the game was that we weren't going to make any mistakes, and potentially we could capitalize on 1 or 2 that every college team has. That muff punt was really our opportunity to maybe get into a game, and we didn't capitalize on it.
We had to have played a clean game to compete against that team.
My original critique, and I know this is going to fall on deaf ears because it's not critiquing the offense, but this is just something that we've noticed over the years with Phil Parker. And in this particular case, sometimes he just fails to play the game how it's playing out.
Right.
So what I mean by that is when we were down 10-0, essentially the game, everyone knew the game was essentially over that point. Yeah. What was going to have to happen is we were really going to start after forcing their hand and forcing them to at least execute some more high wire plays than what we were allowing in the beginning of the game.
Right. And you can't even allow them when you're down 10-0 at half, you can't even allow them to drive the field. Yeah. Because if they pin us deep, we're not going 90 yards.
Yes.
So you have to really generate a mistake by them. They're not making mistakes. By their quarterback play, by the amount of skill they had, their game plan. We need to be more aggressive in that second half, especially in the first drive. I will push back a little bit. My first main takeaway is we did play coming in, the game plan was to limit explosive plays. Yeah. I think the defense did that as best as they could. They couldn't make the big play, essentially more on the players in that point than Phil. You couldn't get out the field in 4th and 1 3 straight times. Couldn't get out the field in 3rd down and short or 3rd and 7 multiple times. I do agree with you that Phil, in the past 3 years, especially just thinking in my head, there's games where we get down by 10 and he just doesn't bring that aggressiveness that we require in that moment. Yeah. He doesn't break the game plan that we came in with originally. But that's the only blame I'll put on the defense is that the game plan should have been sped up at that point.
Especially when you're stopping the run so well. Right. It's like if you're going to line up Cooper, he's the best player on our team.
Right.
You're giving him 10 yards of cushion and actually having him pedal off the start.
Yeah.
If you line him up at 3 yards and, Alar was handing the ball to guys outside the numbers.
Right. His 8-yard out route.
It's a unique college equation, but let's not pretend like we're not playing a unique college equation. Right. This QB has real talent. Yeah. They're not making errors in the passing game.
Yeah. He's playing with confidence.
Force him to put a ball at the sideline.
Right.
That hadn't shown he could do. He can do it. I know he can.
Right.
But that's a far more difficult thing to ask than for him to hit a 10-yard curl.
Yeah, they didn't beat us over the top one time the entire game.
Yeah.
And it's because we didn't ask them to. And it should have been a game plan in the second half. I agree.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the focus of the game, though. I think that's if you do critique anything about the defense, I'd say the second half game plan should have been more aggressive.
Yes.
I think the main positive takeaway, like I mentioned right away, was interior defensive line play.
Nick Jackson was unbelievable.
Nick Jackson played his heart out the entire game. Yeah. We were really, hard on him the first 3 games for blowing assignments. And we're like, what is the upside of playing a guy like that? And it was clear in that game. He had 3 or 4 plays. I'm like, oh, I get it now. That's why you play him, because he can actually hang with the big dogs.
And we're talking about margins here. Right. We knew it was going to be a margins game. We lost the turnover battle by a wide margin. That was already going to be essentially a guaranteed loss.
Right.
But also, you think go back to the 4th and 1 plays where we got sneaked on. Those are usually plays. If I was going to win a game, that's what you do. You're a special player between A gap.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to win this game, getting 2 stops in those areas would also have been an area where you could have recouped something. We could play the game where it's like, okay, what if you don't fumble on the first possession?
Right.
You kick a field goal there. You likely go in a half.
Well, it was
in a 3-3 ball game.
It was going to be a sad play that game.
Yeah.
Because when we were at halftime and we're like, God, we blew it.
Yeah.
We fumbled that, we muffed that punt. We fumbled when we were in red zone. But like when you actually look at the full scope of the game, like those plays didn't matter. Truly. Like Ferentz might go back and the team might go back and they might, dissect where we went wrong. We didn't get off the field in third down. And we turned the ball over twice in the first quarter, essentially. It was like the start of the second quarter. But like, if that's actually the takeaway from the team, it's like that it was a margin game.
It's a 17-6 loss.
Right. It was going to be a loss no matter what, even if you don't make those plays. Like as a fan in the first half, where you kind of wanted to hang in the game for a little bit, it kind of was highlighted.
Yeah.
But in the scope of the entire game, those plays had no
bearing on that.
Bearing on the entire game.
Yeah.
I don't know where else to go on defense. I think you have to highlight the pass rush too. I think that's
obviously
it was a concern, leading up to this year that the last 3 games that the pass rush hasn't really been there. Then you play a team like Penn State that's got their left tackle was going in the top 15 picks, and he played like it. They were very old across the entire offensive line. They didn't get the movement they probably wanted to see in that game, but they're playing a very probably a top 5 defensive line unit in terms of like stopping the run. But we had no pass rush that could have really affected Aller that much either.
Yeah.
I think he felt especially in the second half, he felt very comfortable sitting back there. I think that's just the summary of the game is that we knew if Aller was going to be, playing lights out and reading quickly, we're going to have a tough time winning.
Yeah.
And he played incredible.
Well, now we can move on to the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, which not much to talk about. There was less than
25
40 plays.
Yeah. I think the original critique I have is, the first time we had the ball, the screen where all falls down, that was going to hit. That was going to go for about 15 yards. We'd have gotten field goal range on that play. The little shovel pass we ran to him, 2 very well-designed plays. Both should have worked out. I mean, shouldn't have led to a fumble, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Would have had the ball on the 18-yard line with the first and 10.
Yeah. Good scripted plays.
Why did we not go back to that when we need, to stay in the game? So you're not first and 10 on the 40-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
You have about, I think it's like a minute 40 left in the game.
Maybe a little bit less.
Maybe a little bit less. But it's clear in that moment, you're going to get, Penn State's going to get the ball at half. And your defense, your defense is going to back up on that possession.
Right.
It's going to require a stop on the goal line or against the red zone as long as they don't fuck anything up.
Right.
So in that moment, why don't we have another play well-designed? I feel like we always, have preset plays we go into a game with, and it's either we call them on the first 2 drives of the game, and we're done, or we call them on the last 2 drives.
Yeah, and I think it's an overarching theme of, I think Iowa, if you want to take one, there's 10 things why Iowa had struggled on offense last 5 years, 10 years under Kirk.
Yeah.
One of them that, when you watch any other college football game, is our scripted plays is 10 plays.
Yeah.
Most scripted plays and most installs, it feels like, we don't have the insight of actually how many install plays there are. But from an outside perspective, it looks like we got about 10 scripted plays.
Yeah.
And we basically can use that in the first quarter or the fourth quarter or a major drive to start the second half. And once we burn out of those plays, we essentially have to go back into camp playbook.
Yeah.
Where we are now running
power.
Basic
counter,
concepts.
Sweep.
Right.
Yeah.
Against a team that's
stick.
Right.
Yeah.
Essentially. You're just playing your basic 18 core plays of your playbook. And you've burned all your scripted plays, and we just don't have and I think what it comes down to is Kirk doesn't want
to overteach. He doesn't want to have plays that aren't ran a ton of times and then go out and try and execute them.
And I think it's legitimately practice time.
Yeah,
I think Iowa probably does more fundamental work week to week than any team in the country does. I bet they focus more on individual drills and just working on individual fundamentals than a weekly install gets. And I think it's the entire idea of the program is that we're going to slowly build these guys up to where we're playing our best football in November. But these freaking September and October installs, we don't have a full playbook.
And they're 4 pages
nearly.
Deep. Yeah.
And it works on defense.
It does.
That type of idea of that you want to preach, locking out, you want to preach tackling, you want to preach, all these fundamental, skills for defense. And it does work for some offensive players too, like we see in the NFL development. But defenses like you don't have to, if you get guessed on defense, sometimes the play's only for 4 yards.
Yeah.
You know, you get guessed on offense. Like if teams can smell where you're going with the ball, it really impacts your offense. And so his philosophy of how to like build teams and how to build a program, it definitely it benefits our defense. But if you're not having like a multiple sets consistently on offense and not having these,
which is it's a lack of first down play calls. Like
Right.
if you want to be an on schedule team, that's fine. There's teams out there who do that really well.
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota's an example of it. They still get caught. I mean, I'm going to talk about Minnesota prior to this previous season, but when it was Soraka, they would still be, very rudimentary in their first down play calls.
Mm-hmm.
But they would do a better job of scratching where itches, and they really had a punch, like a jab that would work, and they could go to it over and over again.
Yeah.
If we had something we could go to over and over again, sure, whatever, that's
Right.
fine. But when you're playing a team that's like obviously superior to you, you need a first down play call that's going to have them just think for a second.
Right. Slow their eyes down.
Don't like. One of the worst play calls I saw all game was we're sitting, and this is just like the definition of why I can't stand Brian. It's because he is.
Every time you say Brian, every time you say anything, just say Kirk.
Kirk, yes.
Like if.
Okay,
go ahead. Yeah.
But it was a 2nd and 9. Well, I think this is also Brian because this is his. He's got a whole tendency breakout to his idea of how we attack people. And we're in 2nd and 9. I think it's when we're down 10, and he calls a short side of the field sweep.
Mm-hmm.
And going into the game, you're like, okay, I'm going to go against tendency. Every time we line up and we run a sweep, it's to the wide side of the field. I'm going to run a sweep to the short side of the field.
Right.
But then it plays out and you see why you don't fucking do that.
Yeah.
Because it's Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately they're going to get over your top block. And then you're going to have 4 yards between you and the sideline and their entire team running at you.
Right.
So at best, that play goes for 4 to 5 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you call every single play to go for 4 to 5 yards, and it's all about these quick little we're going to be one step quicker here, we're going to be one step quicker here.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not even giving you're taking the blame completely off yourself. You're saying, we just need to execute. It's like, no, you need to be creative. You need to truly understand how this offense works together and not just try and be an O-line coach being as an OC.
Yeah, and I know you're blaming Brian for he does have like fundamental breakdowns of like he overthinks something or underthinks something like consistently.
Yeah.
Like that's the general thing behind Brian's play calling that frustrates people. But also every time I said like Twitter this last 2 days has been playing the blame game. We blame Barnett, we blame the offensive line, do we blame Brian, do we blame Copeland for receiver development? It all leads back to Kirk. Like, even talking about the scripted play stuff, who are you scripting a play for outside of All on this team? We saw All's 2 scripted plays. It was a tight end screen to him. It was the same thing last year. The only guy you could script a play for was Laporta because you're like, let's get our best player in space. Generally, your tight end's not your best player in college football. And that comes all back to Kirk because Kirk has built this program. He built it a very smart way. Guess what? Iowa's not going to recruit quarterbacks. We're not going to recruit receivers. We're not going to recruit running backs every year. We're going to focus on offensive line play, line of scrimmage play, defense, and special teams. We're going to devote a lot of time. We're going to devote all of our best players to defense. He has basically accepted his idea is that our skill talent will always be lesser at Iowa, most likely.
Yeah.
So we're not going to make that the highlight of our program. But now you go into these games where you don't have enough guys on offense to even come up with a game plan because you're not giving Regaini a jet sweep. You're not giving Vines a bubble screen. You're not giving the running back any plays other than Caleb Johnson to the outside. None of those guys belong on the field Penn State's defenders.
Yeah.
And it's not just like blame one guy on the team.
It's like a decade.
It's a systemic issue with Kirk's entire philosophy of how to play Iowa football. And that is who to blame. I don't blame any of those guys individually. Kirk had the idea that we don't care about offense, we don't care about skill players. And now it's 3 years into the system. And now here we are. We don't have players because for so many reasons.
Yeah. You can't recruit dynamic athletes to play.
Right.
Well, I'm going to get the ball 4 times a game and it's going to be a slant go. And
yes.
Yeah.
And that is the core of every issue. If you want to blame anything, blame the idea of how we play.
Yeah.
That is my thought towards it. And that's
here's the alternative perspective though.
Right.
And I'm just playing devil's advocate here because we've had this discussion multiple times.
Yeah.
Find a team in the Midwest that has a unit like that.
Completely agree with you. And I think that's what my next point was going to be was go, you can make it.
So then, okay, we came into the game knowing it's going to be
a margins game.
A margins game. We got the deep punt.
Mm-hmm.
To start off the game. You saw it play out. It's like, Aller's freaking out with it back to the end zone.
Yeah.
Checks down twice.
Right.
You get the good return.
Yeah.
You're able. You could have kicked a field goal up 3-0. All of a sudden, then you can fall back into your web.
Right.
That results in a long drive.
Mm-hmm.
We got consecutive stops after that. We could have got the ball at the 40 if that doesn't bounce up Brennan's back.
Yeah.
You get the ball at the 40. You need one first down. Then you can punt it deep again.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you might have played. If you limit those two mistakes, as gross as it sounds, you could be potentially in a 3-0 game against a team that is so much more talented than you at so many different positions.
Yeah.
And that might just be the reality of a Midwestern football team.
Right.
And he might understand that better than most. And it's frustrating we haven't got to see it play out because like we've mentioned, Michigan last year got your absolute ass kicked.
Right. Ohio State
last year. Penn State 2 years prior. If that isn't for a Clifford injury, we don't hang in that game.
Right.
We were able to hang with them once they, lost their QB.
Yep.
And it's really been an issue since we've had just been completely devoid of offensive skill talent
since forever.
But then you get dark about this.
Yeah.
2009 Penn State, no Claiborne block.
Yeah.
Our other touchdown, other points in the game is a safety and a field goal.
Right.
That's how you won that game.
It's that meme of the astronauts.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
always has been.
We've always been a bounces team.
Yeah.
Always have been. It truly is like that.
Yeah, we're playing bounces.
Yeah.
But I think some perspective we can add to the Iowa fan base is you're a state of 3 million people.
Right.
You compete in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
You're not a destination for recruits.
Right.
You have an unreal fan base. What you can collate is a team that's very good at home with a very good defense, very good special teams.
Right.
And that can muck up some games against some other upper echelon opponents. But for hell's sake, Minnesota had 2 NFL receivers in 2019. They still can't recruit that position.
Right.
Like PJ proved it. It's like, I can get you first round in the NFL.
Yeah.
Still has lost all of his recruits from there.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't really happen in the Midwest.
Well, I would your Ferentz's system is about mucking it up in these games.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to be able to recruit the athletes that these guys can. We haven't mucked up one of these games in so many years.
2016.
Right? Michigan.
Yeah.
2016 Michigan was the last game we mucked up.
That's a safety, a fumbled punt.
Right.
Fumbled kickoff.
Right.
And then a couple picks.
Yeah.
But that's how you beat these teams.
But that was 2016. We haven't, and that's what, if you look at, there's a stat like Iowa's ranked opponents like losses. It's like 26.8 points per margin.
Yeah.
Is our losses. Because even when it's because offenses in the upper echelon teams are even evolving to be more freaky than they used to be.
Yeah.
It's
the
because
QBs really
the quarterbacks are evolving. Their skill is getting better. Their schemes are evolving. And they're having, if you give them 8 yards of cushion on the sideline and you give them light boxes, they got the QBs to run. They got the QBs to throw. They got a bunch of talented athletes. Their offensive lines are improving. Like, the gap is widening because you can make Kirk's entire arguments like, all right, like we're going to muck it up, but he hasn't even got close to those results yet.
Yeah.
So it's like the idea of his program it's a results-based program. It's not a sexy program, but the results aren't there either. And that's probably the most frustrating point of it because we came into this, we previewed the game and we're like, we're built to muck this game up. The entire idea of our program is to muck this game up, and we couldn't.
Yeah,
because we couldn't even get a first down.
Yeah,
and that's just a systemic issue of Iowa offense. Like, I lean more to like this is a legitimate problem. It's not going to get played out this year because of the schedule we play.
Yeah,
but if our next only opportunity to prove to the Iowa fan base, to me and you, and to anybody, will be the Big Ten title game.
Yeah. We won't play another good team the rest of the season.
Wisconsin on the road is actually going to be a very tough game.
I think we'll lose a couple games in there.
Right.
Just because we're going to have to play close to the chest the rest of the season. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah. But it's the only time we can prove that again is in the Big Ten title game. And essentially that's Kirk's last data point to the new AD.
Yeah.
It goes, watch this. We're going to play probably a team that can win the national title.
Yeah.
On a neutral field with no home field advantage. If it's another 40-point bomb loss, his entire idea and philosophy of muck it up, don't care about offense, defense, special teams, there's not gonna be a metric. There's no result for it that makes sense. We're wasting our time.
I think
playing this style.
I think we actually did ourselves a favor by losing to Nebraska last year.
Right.
Because if you go into that game against that Michigan team and you go get blown out by 55, it's like we're in the exact same spot again.
Right.
Like we're questioning everything. I think to not be a prisoner of the moment, it's a college football game.
Let's bring it back to the full season.
It's instead of being people, that's what we're seeing a lot on, piling on.
Yeah.
We came into this game knowing we were likely going to lose.
Right.
You are now 3-1. You have a slate of games where you're probably favored and still all but one of this. We'll be all favored every single game besides
at Wisconsin
and maybe Nebraska.
We'll be dogs to Nebraska.
We'll probably be dogs.
If Nebraska continues to,
we'll probably be like a 1-point dog to Nebraska.
Right.
But even both those games, it's going to be bounces. It's going to be potentially if you get your running backs back and this whole line gets a little bit better, you're not going to see game-changing generational talent on the defensive field again.
Right.
Like what we played was like this Penn State team might go out and physically dominate Ohio State.
They could win. They could go to the playoff and win a game in the playoff and could give a national title
because they have Chop Robinson. What we saw is maybe the most special talent I've seen on the defensive field besides Micah Parsons.
Right.
You also have Abdul Carter. You have corners and safeties who make all the plays.
Hardy and King are both.
It makes sense why we were so afraid of forcing the issue against these guys, and we just didn't get out of that mantra when we went down.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we had this disease when we fall behind.
Mm-hmm.
We're stick to the game plan. Don't lose sight of the goal. It's no, lose sight of the fucking goal. You have to now score now.
Yeah.
You have to get stops now.
Right.
Or you're going to get worn out.
Yeah. It's the old adage of, don't panic.
Well, that's even played out in the Nebraska game last year. Then it's we're just
don't panic.
Don't panic. We're gonna hand off for 4.
You see that guy QB thrown to the sideline? You see our quarterback, our receivers getting no separation.
Yeah.
You see the only guy that belongs in the field is all.
Yeah.
Start being insanely aggressive.
Yes.
Pull some stunts.
Yes. Or try and force some PIs.
Right.
That's how you're going to have to win disgusting now.
Mm-hmm.
But you're clearly not going to line up and run power on these guys.
Right? Yeah. Well, I think we can highlight, the main takeaway from being on offense is Chop Robinson had 3 separate plays against arguably our 3 best players on offense other than all.
Yeah.
He had a swim move against Colby where Colby nearly fell on his face. He beat him they put him right next to the guard and they rushed him. He made an incredible move. He bench pressed Logan Jones, who's the strongest player in
Iowa history.
One of the strongest players in Iowa history.
Yeah.
He bench pressed him and pushed him back 5 yards. And then he had a straight rush against Richmond, who's been the number 1 actually pass blocking tackle in the Big Ten, according to PFF. I'm not a huge PFF guy, but it's an important stat.
Yeah. And I haven't noticed him being a liability yet.
He's been a good pass blocker all season.
Yeah.
And he ran by him
Yeah.
he wasn't even there.
Yeah. And then
Chop Robinson is the main takeaway from this game is Aller is the best Penn State QB in 2 decades.
Yeah.
And Chop Robinson is going to be a top 10, 5, 3 pick.
And you're doing that all on the road.
Right.
And you didn't get the bounces early. Again, another point I want to break up here too is yes, the offensive numbers are unforgivable.
Mm-hmm.
But when you mix in the game flow, where it's an early 10-point deficit, your defense is not getting off field. It's I think you had 3 consecutive 15-yard plays.
Mm-hmm.
You're walking on the field with absolutely 0 rhythm. You're trying to establish rhythm again.
You're trying to beat them down, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to get these guys tired and they're playing 5 snaps an hour.
Exactly.
Right.
So all that comes in the fact that the numbers are historically bad,
mm-hmm.
but that's because of how Iowa plays. I don't mm-hmm. think that was you're going to see other teams have more success against that Penn State team, but not really change how the game is being played.
Right. It's still going to be the same result.
Exactly.
When it goes bad for Iowa, it goes very bad.
Yeah. Especially when the idea at the end of the game is we're not even going to challenge these guys on offense. We're just going to see if we make the play somewhere else.
I think it's time to move on from this game, but it's definitely Iowa's 11.5-point favorites this weekend.
Yeah.
If you were just a scoreboard watcher and a metric guy, and you just pull up Iowa's playing Michigan State this weekend, and you're just 11.5-point favorites. They had less than 80 yards last game. How in the hell are they going to be 11.5-point favorites? It's because, we just mentioned, when Iowa gets murdered, they get murdered. It's like an embarrassing. It's like the way we play, it's going to be embarrassing.
Yeah.
How we go
It's going to suck.
It's going to, it's going to be bad.
We are happy to announce a new sponsor for the ANF Podcast. The ANF Podcast is sponsored by Eye Surgeons Associates, proudly serving Eastern Iowa and Western Illinois for all your eye care needs for over 40 years.
So I think it's time to break into what we expect. Let's start on the defensive end first for Iowa's defense. Once again, the defense played pretty well.
Yeah.
Hard to blame them. They played hard. They kept on fighting the defensive line.
They stopped the run with light boxes against two potential NFL backs.
Right.
One for sure, another one's probably likely.
Yeah. Well, as we mentioned in the preview, Theo Johnson and Warren are both NFL guys at tight end. Lambert Smith was even more impressed than I thought he was on film.
Yeah.
He's a real receiver. He's not just a good receiver. And I think that our defense, it has a shot to hold every single team we play for the rest of the year, probably outside of Wisconsin, who's just going to chuck the ball around, to less than 17 or 14 points a game.
I don't think we're going to see 2 touchdowns from a team the rest of the year besides Wisconsin.
Right.
I think this game is going to be. Yeah. I mean, so Michigan State's got a good running back and a good tight end.
Right.
Other than that, I haven't seen any receiving talent that's very scary.
Offensive line's just meh. It's always been meh under Tucker, who's not obviously anymore. They lost.
They had a good line, wouldn't they, Kenny? But that was
right.
I think that was a holdover O-line.
It's still, you watch a lot of Kenny's runs.
He was special.
Busted stuff.
Well, and then I think they're going to go with Noah Kim again.
They are. They 100% are.
Because you saw Hauser come out there and he just looks like a young QB. It's like
throws a nice ball,
but that's just that's if you play that guy against Iowa, he gets demolished from the start.
Right. Noah Kim will start.
And he's got a read option game to him. So again, we're gonna see. I've almost put my life on it.
Right.
So we're gonna be able to see Michigan State hold on to the ball because they're gonna utilize the read option pretty much every single set of 3 plays. You're gonna see it one time.
Right.
And if they run it on first and second down, you're gonna see a 6-yard pickup.
Right.
So
especially early in the game.
Before we start calling to it, before we let them get comfortable with it, because you want to eventually counter it later.
Right.
But that's in the first half, this is going to be a game where Michigan State possesses the ball. And they're going to try and possess the ball. They're not going to try and throw against our defense. I would put my life on it. You saw how they ended games quickly against Washington and Maryland because they put the ball in there. I think they're going to learn from their mistakes there. They're going to really slow down their offensive attack.
And their skill is it's below average in the Big Ten, but it's still enough skill at receiver.
It's a Big Ten player.
Yeah, they're Big Ten players. And they'll make a few plays. When you watch this team, especially the last 2 years, they just lack identity. They're running this pistol offense, shotgun offense that, wants to run the ball, but doesn't really have anything that, looks scary in the run game. And thus, you don't have that jab. So the passing game kind of looks disjointed at points. And it's kind of an overall theme of Michigan State the last 2 years that they just can't do anything very well on offense. Thus, they don't have anything that really would push Iowa's buttons for an entire scope of the game. Maybe a few drives where they can get to our red zone. Yeah. But I have a hard time believing they're going to put up a good amount of points.
Yeah. And you're going to see our D-line dominate this team up front. Right. I think their actual rushing attack, when it's handing off to the RB, will average about 2.5 yards to carry at most.
Yeah.
Where they'll have success is the QB read. Will be interesting how quickly we counter that. I don't think we want to get this team any type of confidence. So I wonder if we'll go to a quicker hash of that.
Iowa should smell blood. Your coach is gone. We obviously talked about Keon Coleman and Thorne left.
Yeah.
They just got beat by Maryland by 3 scores at home. They got boat raced by Washington. This team's confidence.
Their will's not going to really be there.
Their care, their will. It could flip. It could be the exact opposite if you give them a game early. They got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
They get super aggressive on, they go 4 on 4th down, stuff like that.
You'll likely see some good schemed up plays early from them.
Right.
It's not like they're going to come in blind to this game.
Right. And D'Antoni's on the staff.
Yeah.
Plenty of games versus Kirk Ferentz in his resume.
Yeah.
He knows how to beat us. He's going to have an idea of how to run against this defense.
Yeah. I think we can move on a lot. Just get this thing moving.
Yeah.
But offensively, if we don't see a return of Caleb Johnson or Jazz, more importantly, Johnson, in my opinion, just to add some explosiveness to the offense. I know Jazz had the longest run of the year.
Well, eat Jazz even just to have on 3rd down so he knows the assignment and he doesn't run the opposite way in a play action fake.
Yeah. I think you're just going to see a super passive offense again.
Right.
They play a 4-front. It's half man-to-man, half zone. You see a lot more zone on 3rd down. It's going to be a lot of man-to-man on 1st and 2nd. Their DBs are bad. Yeah. Anderson should be able to get open against these guys. Even Regain should be able to get open. But, you're sticking an injured Cade back there.
Right.
I haven't seen much from the pass rush. I know their D ends look like real guys. Their D tackles don't.
Yeah. It'll be interesting how Brian calls the game.
My guess is they're going to be very aggressive on first down runs. They're going to try and keep us off schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to blitz us a ton on first down.
Yeah.
Again, like without Lachey and without, any real other guys to go to.
Right.
Is it just going to be us trying to stay on schedule again?
Yeah.
And that's my fear.
That's my fear that because we still need to take advantage of Cade.
Yes.
Like in my opinion, like you got 8 games left. You're not going to play truly any defenses that have unreal secondaries. And like, I really don't want Kirk to just put the brains on this offense and say, we're going to play, a really safe game going forward. Because you have a QB that can make, a consistent amount of like very deep, good reads. He's got, he trusts his arm. He plays with confidence. Don't strip that from him right now.
Yeah.
Like, don't make him an Iowa QB.
Yeah.
Like he's had probably back-to-back bad games. I don't even consider last game a bad game.
No.
He had legitimately no shot.
Yeah.
Let him play still. Let the offense breathe, because in the end, if you want to accomplish what you set out for, a Big Ten title, you can't have Cade come and playing, I'm throwing the ball 12 times a game ball.
Yeah.
You got to let him still have some confidence.
Yeah.
So this is, and that what should be the theme of this like game, regain confidence in the team.
Yeah.
You got a night game at home against a team that's spiraling.
Mm-hmm.
Put it on.
Yeah.
Like, play a great game. Shut all the fans up. Like, have a moment here. And you win one game by 2 scores, no matter how it looks, and every Iowa fan turns the page and looks at the schedule. The truth of it is everyone's going to be back on board after one win.
Yeah.
Because you cannot talk yourself into being mad about a 10-2 or 11-1 team.
Yeah.
That goes
especially when we expected to lose to Penn State. Once you get that bad taste out of your mouth,
right,
then everything opens up again.
You start talking to yourself, you know what, that Penn State team's really good.
Yeah. They might win a national title.
Man, we don't muff that punt. Who knows? We're just talking about our future conversations here.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the idea of this game is like Michigan State's disjointed on offense. They're disjointed on defense. They're not a good team.
Yeah.
Like they just got beat by Maryland, who's not a good team.
Yeah.
It's just an opportunity. And it's an opportunity to have a fresh slate. The idea of Iowa football, as we mentioned, the idea of Kirk Ferentz-led program, that's for next year. That's for the offseason. But for right now, Iowa still has a very good opportunity ahead of it, a very, reasonable chance to really accomplish a lot in terms of winning the division and compete for a Big Ten title, which, guess what? A year from now, that might not ever be a thing again.
Yeah.
Like, truly. This might be the last year to win a Big Ten title in this way. The way we have it currently set up, it probably is the last year to actually have a 1-game playoff for a Big Ten title. And I don't foresee it being different unless the NIL program takes our receiver skill and quarterback skill and tight end skill to a new level.
I think my pushback on that was that when you have this consolidations of conferences, you're going to basically essentially go down to like 40 real teams now.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, it's been like that for a while now. That most of the Pac-12 didn't matter for a while. It's
right.
Essentially, we're getting all the Pac-12 teams that matter.
Mm-hmm.
Big 12 teams that matter are moving away. But with the rising of tides, all boats rise.
Right.
Like you're going to have talent that moves up a level. Like where you're going to have transfers from like the Big 12 teams and other
right.
who are going to want to compete at the highest
The
level.
other type of Caleb Brown types where they're like,
and it's also, again, it's going to take a moving away from this system.
Right.
Like I do have a feeling that like with the new AD and just you're seeing like just a complete divide between us and super talented teams.
Right.
You're going to likely see us moving on from Kirk after the season. I think there's real money on the table. You yes, there's a worry. Okay, we could take a giant step back. We probably will for a couple seasons if we go somewhere new. But with the transfer portal, that's not as scary as it used to be.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be able to go out and get like the top 2 or 3 coaching prospect in the country.
Right.
And you're going to pay them, top 20 money in the country.
Right.
Like that should not scare us away. Kirk's earned everything he's got.
Yeah.
But what we've seen lately, it's like, the evolution of football has passed him by. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
Like you have to evolve. And that's the point you made earlier, where it's like teams, you can't just pull college football teams into the muck anymore. They're too talented.
Right.
Like everything is it's just like everything else in life. It evolves.
Mm-hmm.
It gets better.
Yeah.
And he's still playing like QBs can't throw outside the numbers.
Right. And I think like my point against that would be like if we win 10 games and win the West, which I think is, I'd say 40% chance that happens. I think it's more likely we end up with 9-3 or 8-4. the AD can't pull the plug. They can't.
No, they can't.
It's 23-year coach.
But then you're just delaying the year.
You're delaying
the
inevitable.
race the year following if
Right.
you get 3 of those guys on the schedule.
Right. You're bringing in 4 unreal coaches.
Yeah.
Like DeBoer, Lanning, Lincoln Riley,
Yeah.
Chip Kelly.
Yeah.
4 guys who were like smelling NFL,
Yeah.
smelling the best job in college football.
Yeah.
And it's just it is delaying the inevitable, but I don't think a year 1 AD who seems to be trying to improve everything. And, in her statement, she says, we're trying to have, the stability of Iowa. It's what drew me in the most. I'm going to can the top coach.
Yeah. It would have to take a catastrophic.
It would have to be
year
a
for
6-6, 7-5 season. I think that's the only way.
that. Yeah.
Right.
And that's likely not going to happen with our schedule.
No.
So we're a year away still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. You want to do some picks?
Yeah, let's do it.
We did horrible last week. I gave out a game a year and the team lost when they're 11.5-point favorites. But generally, we do punishments when we lose. But we're going to consider watching that game on Saturday night as a punishment.
Punishment enough.
Yeah.
I can start us off. Going into the theme of how we broke down, I guess we can just predict the Iowa score right now. I think we both at the same level.
Oh, yeah, we should do
I think it's 23-10 Iowa.
I think 2013 is my prediction.
2013.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to go under 36.5 for Iowa. I think without Lachey, you're seeing a real hole in our skill talent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Brian's going to try. I think we're just going to attempt to stay on schedule. It's a forefront. We're going to see ton of inside zone runs.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to lead to us being very passive.
If you don't bring the running backs back,
Michigan State's going to be able to hold on to the ball.
Right.
I don't think they're scoring many touchdowns, but they're going to hold on to the ball between the 20s.
Mm-hmm.
You mix those two things together, that's an under 36 pretty comfortably.
Right.
Next is under 47.5 for Gophers versus Louisiana. I think Louisiana averaged 200 yards rushing a game, a little over that. Gophers have completely abandoned the pass again. They're going to be down upwards of 50, 55 rushes again.
They're going to pound the ball.
Likely, they're not going to be as passive with a lead as they were against Northwestern. What cost them? They had a 21-point lead in the fourth quarter. I think it was something like that, wasn't it?
Right. 21 twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
they were up 21 rip, and then
Yeah.
they were up 31-10
Yeah.
with 2 minutes left in the third.
Yeah. So we should have won that bet.
Oh, yeah, I know. I was texting everyone I told you, bet of the year. And then I was like, wait.
And I don't think that we're going to see them get that passive on defense again.
No.
So even if they do take a big lead, I think they're going to be more aggressive in their defensive sets.
I think Northwestern's QB just got really hot.
Yeah.
We've seen it with Iowa games in the past where some QB gets in a rhythm and he just starts to, he throws the ball 15 straight plays. That, it can happen. These guys are talented.
And then I have the under 48.5 for ISU Oklahoma. ISU had an explosion last week with points, but this game last year, I remember watching tape going into the ISU Iowa game. They're a game against Oklahoma. It's just both 3 front defenses. I think ISU's going to be super passive on the road with how they approach everything. They're going to want to protect back. They're going to try and stay in this game. I think that lends to a slower paced game. And Gabriel doesn't throw the ball that well. He's had some big games, but I think it's more a predication of the defense he's playing rather than the scheme. So I think with a back to ISU defense, that's actually going to result in a 21-10, 24-10 game.
Yeah. I will be doing the Iowa versus Michigan State under as well. I just don't see Iowa opening up the playbook. I think Kirk is now going to recalibrate his brain a little bit. As much as I want him to be confident with Cade and the receivers and just, trust our offense to flow with a good QB and an offensive line that can protect unless it's blocking Chopper Hopkinson. I think I have a hard time believing he's not going to go, well, the strength of our team is our defense. Let's protect them at all cost. And that's usually then generates a game plan that's going to be pretty conservative. I'm going to do Nebraska plus 18.5 at home versus Michigan. That's going to be my other. I'm only going to do 2 picks this week. Nebraska's basically turned into a triple option team. I think they've embraced this new backup QB, and I think he ran 19 times last time, and they ran him 20 plus times against NIU. I find that I believe that they're just going to slow the game down big time. I still believe in Nebraska's defense. They're playing that 3 front, and they have a really good nose tackle, and Michigan's going to have a hard time not running the ball a lot as well. You bake in that this is kind of a turning point in Nebraska's season. You win back-to-back games, you get a 2:30 slate in a packed, stadium.
You're asking just for an early Nebraska score.
Right. I think this game's just going to be really low scoring.
Yeah.
I think, there's a chance that Michigan puts up 24 or something like that. But I think Nebraska can get one score early. Until I think Michigan makes some adjustments, at halftime or something like that to account for that they're essentially not going to put the ball in the air.
Yeah.
I think Nebraska will have a score in the first half, and then, I could see a 24-7, 24-10 type of game.
Yep. That's what I mean. I think the over-under in that's like 41.
Right.
So they're expecting it to be really low scoring.
Definitely.
All right. Well, hopefully when we're talking to you next, the vibe of the whole team is completely flipped around. Everyone's a prisoner moment in college football. You only get one opportunity a weekend.
Right.
And I think the thing we just want to end with is it's 1 week.
Yep.
Let's give these guys some credence. Like, you still got a competitive football team. You got an easy schedule. A lot in front of you.
Right.
If we lose next week, fire everyone.
Yeah. Seriously.
All right. Well, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.